Thieves use an angle grinder to cut an opening in the reinforced steel doors. The gang are using two of the fastest cars on the market, a Mitsubishi Evolution and a Subaru Impreza.
A blue Subaru Impreza sits idling outside a Harvey Norman store on Arena. Two men climb out. One raises a crowbar. 30 seconds later, $20,000 of electronics is loaded into the back seat. The car is gone before a single police unit reaches the street. This exact scene, same method, same car, played out more than 200 times across New South Wales in a 3-year window. And every single time, the car that vanished into the night was a Subaru WRX. This is the story of how a Japanese rally car accidentally became the most feared vehicle in Australian criminal history, how it broke the insurance industry, humiliated the police, and forced the government into a crisis meeting about banning powerful cars entirely, and how, in the end, the only solution anyone could think of was to start driving them. To understand how the WRX ended up in this story, you have to understand what it actually was. Because on the surface, it looked like nothing. Small Japanese sedan, modest bodywork, bit of a hood scoop if you knew what you were looking at. The kind of car your uncle might drive to work. But underneath that unremarkable shell was something completely different. WRX stands for World Rally Experimental, and that name is not marketing, it's a description. This car was Subaru's weapon for the most brutal motorsport discipline on the planet, the World Rally Championship. Not a smooth racetrack where you can dial in a perfect setup, the WRC. Gravel roads, snow, ice, hairpins cut into the side of mountains, conditions that destroy normal cars before they've finished the first stage. The WRX was built for all of that. A turbocharged flat-4 boxer engine, a layout unique to Subaru, with pistons firing horizontally outward, giving the car an incredibly low center of gravity. All-wheel drive as standard, a chassis tuned not for comfort but for grip, for rotation, for the ability to change direction at speed without drama. In 1995, a young Scotsman named Colin McRae, completely fearless, probably a little bit insane, drove one of these things to the WRC World Drivers' Championship. Then Subaru won the manufacturer's title in 1995, 1996, and 1997. 3 years straight, the whole motorsport world was watching. And Subaru brought that car, that actual rally car with a number plate and a back seat, to Australian roads in 1997. Now here's the thing nobody planned for. The qualities that won championships in the forests of Wales and on the gravel roads of Greece, grip in bad conditions, explosive acceleration out of slow corners, all-wheel drive stability when the road goes slippery, those same qualities translated perfectly to something else. Running from the police through the wet back streets of Sydney at midnight. Nobody at Subaru saw that coming, but somebody else did. Before we get into the crime wave itself, there's a question worth asking. Because Australia in the 1990s was not short of fast cars. This was the era of the Holden Commodore, the HSV Club Sport, big, naturally aspirated V8s, rear-wheel drive, loud, genuinely quick in a straight line. These were the cars Australians worshipped, and criminals had been using them for years. So why did they switch? The answer comes down to one word: corners. A V8 Commodore is an animal in the wet. You put too much power through the rear wheels on a slippery road and it steps out. It requires a skilled driver to manage. It's dramatic, it's slow through tight sections, and it's extremely loud. The last thing you want when you've just reversed through a shop front at 3 a.m. and half the neighborhood is awake. The WRX does something completely different. You put the power down and it just goes. All 4 wheels pulling. The torque split between front and rear handled automatically. You can throw it into a tight suburban corner at a speed that would spin a rear-wheel drive car into a wall, and the WRX finds grip, straightens up, and accelerates out. And the police cars of the era? Ford Falcons, Holden Commodores, big, heavy, rear-wheel drive highway patrol vehicles designed for motorway cruising, not for chasing something nimble through the maze of Sydney's inner suburbs at 3 in the morning. Over a 2-year stretch, New South Wales police were involved in more than 100 high-speed pursuits with stolen WRXs. Not one was caught during a chase. Not a single one. 100 pursuits, 0 arrests. That is not a policing problem. That is a complete and total breakdown of the car versus car arms race. The criminals had simply outclassed the technology available to the people trying to stop them. Speed alone doesn't make the perfect criminal car. A McLaren is fast. You don't see ram raids done in McLarens. What made the WRX genuinely dangerous, the thing that turned it from a fast car into a crisis, was that it had 3 advantages working together at the same time. First, it was brutally fast in the conditions that mattered. Not a drag strip, real roads, wet roads, tight roads, the kind where raw horsepower means nothing if you can't put it down. Second, it was almost invisible. In the mid-90s, a WRX was just a small Japanese sedan. No spoilers screaming for attention, no aggressive body kit. From a distance, from a police cruiser running at highway speed, it looked exactly like a base-level family car. Criminals would go further, removing the WRX badges, fitting plain hubcaps, doing everything they could to make it look like an absolute nothing of a vehicle. By the time any officer looked twice, it was gone. Third, and this is the one that really made it a target, it was shockingly easy to steal. Early Japanese performance cars of this era had almost no electronic security, no immobilizer, no transponder in the key, just a mechanical lock on the ignition. A capable car thief could break into a WRX and have it started in under 2 minutes, sometimes considerably less. The result was a car that could be stolen quickly, that nobody noticed on the road, and that nothing available to law enforcement could catch once it was moving. The perfect crime vehicle is not the most expensive car, it's the most capable car that nobody notices. The WRX was both. What happened next in Sydney is genuinely extraordinary to read about. Even decades later, the method was simple, brazen, and it worked almost every time. A stolen WRX, sometimes with cloned plates, would back at speed through the glass frontage of a store. Passengers would be out of the car in seconds, grabbing merchandise, electronics, clothing, mobile phones, whatever was accessible, and loading it into the back. 30 seconds, sometimes less. Then gone. The incident log from this period reads like something from a movie script. 1 week alone. A Harvey Norman store in Arena, $20,000 of goods taken. Oshkosh in Double Bay hit twice within 18 days. $20,000 of clothing each time. A Kohl's supermarket in Manly Vale. A 7-Eleven in Lane Cove. A Shell petrol station in Roseville. 3 service stations hit in a single night. Different suburbs, same white Impreza at every scene. 1 electronics store in Alexandria was hit, and the thieves used not 1, but 2 Subarus, a WRX and a Forester, as getaway vehicles. $50,000 of clothing vanished from a CBD store in 21 minutes, a computer store in Roseberry. On and on it went. And then something happened that genuinely shocked people. A WRX owner in Kingsford had his car stolen at gunpoint, a carjacking, in Australia. In the 1990s. Carjacking was virtually unheard of here. It simply did not happen. The fact that someone wanted a WRX badly enough to point a weapon at its owner to get one, that told you everything about how valued this car had become in the criminal world. A 19-year-old was eventually jailed for stealing 9 cars, 2 of them WRXs, during test drives at dealerships. He never returned any of them. Not one was ever recovered. At the peak of all this, a strike force was assembled by the State Crime Command specifically to deal with the WRX ram raid problem. Not organized crime in general, not car theft broadly, a dedicated task force for one type of car doing one type of crime. That is how serious it had gotten. When the criminal world falls in love with a specific car, the first people to feel it are not always the police. It's the actuaries. Insurance companies process claims. They run the numbers. And by the late 1990s, the numbers around the WRX were catastrophic. Theft rates through the roof. Crashes involving stolen WRXs, write-offs, medical claims. The cost of every ram raid traced back to an Impreza. Industry response was swift and brutal. Several of Australia's biggest insurers, GIO, QBE, CGU, simply stopped offering cover on WRXs entirely. Refused. You could not buy a policy. Others, like RACV and AAMI, kept offering cover but at premiums so astronomical that most ordinary people couldn't afford them. Think about what that means for a moment. It also triggered something you'd probably have laughed at if someone proposed it earlier in the decade: serious political debate about whether Australia should ban certain performance cars outright, limit their power by law, fit mandatory speed restrictors to any vehicle sold above a certain output figure. It sounds absurd now. It almost happened. Subaru watched all of this unfold with what you'd imagine was a very specific kind of dread. They had not built a criminal tool. They had built a rally car. They had won the WRC with it. They had launched it in Australia with genuine excitement, watched enthusiasts line up at dealerships, and seen it become one of the most beloved performance cars of its generation. And now it was appearing on the evening news every second week, backed through a shop front with stolen plates. The company's response was methodical. First, they partnered with the NRMA to introduce dealer-fitted keypad immobilizers, a secondary security device that required the owner to punch in a personal code before the engine would start. You could hotwire the ignition all you liked. Without the code entered on that keypad, the car went nowhere. Then, in the early 2000s, Subaru went further. They began embedding every new vehicle with data dot technology, approximately 7,000 microscopic dots, each laser-etched with the car's VIN number, applied invisibly across the body panels and interior. Under ultraviolet light, they glowed clearly. Under normal light, completely invisible. The idea was to make it pointless to strip a stolen WRX for parts, because every single component carried identification. It helped. Gradually, the theft rates started to fall. The new security systems made the car harder to steal quickly, which broke the RAM rate equation. If you can't get in and gone in 2 minutes, the risk calculus changes completely, but the reputation lingered. For years after, WRX ownership in Australia carried a stigma. The insurance premiums stayed elevated long after the crime wave had subsided. People would tell you they got strange looks driving one, that police would clock the car and keep watching it, even when the driver was doing nothing wrong. Subaru built a rally car, and for a decade, it wore a criminal's jacket. Here's where this story turns into something genuinely strange. By the late 1990s, with the crime wave at its absolute peak and the police completely unable to catch the cars they were chasing, someone in the New South Wales Police Department asked a very logical question. If we can't catch them in what we have, what if we drove what they drive? The decision was made. New South Wales Police acquired a fleet of Subaru WRXs, fitted them with lights and sirens, put officers in them, and sent them out to catch the exact same car they were now driving. It worked. Not perfectly, nothing about this situation was ever clean, but the game had changed. A WRX in police livery can actually keep pace with a stolen WRX through a tight suburban street. The physics are the same. The platform is the same. For the first time, the chases were competitive, and it never stopped. Police departments across Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland ran WRX fleets on and off for over 2 decades. In 2024, the Northern Territory Police added 13 brand new WRX sedans to their high-performance pursuit fleet, fitted with automatic number plate recognition, speed radar, rear-facing message boards, and a rifle mount with electronic release. The car that once humiliated the police is now wearing their badge, chasing down the next generation of criminals who, by the way, have largely moved on to other vehicles. The WRX won, not the criminals, not the police, the car itself.